DJ Nubis with you with my partner in crime, Edgar Allan Poet for Poetic Carnage, and I'm throwing this out to Poet. This episode or this segment is called NFL Slim Pickens.
Slim Pickens.
We're going to talk about the NFL, strictly NFL stuff. We're going to keep it short, but we're going to talk a little bit about the games that were played this past week as well as the games coming up. And I think we're going to kind of go in order here. We've got the Jaguars going to the Chiefs this week, but shouldn't avoid talking about or mentioning what happened with the Chargers. Chargers get out to a 27-0 lead. Before the half, Jacksonville gets at least 7 points, but you had to sit there and say maybe Jacksonville wasn't ready for this game or they were just not prepared or whatever. But if you didn't pay attention, the Jaguars came back to win 31-30. Pretty amazing game overall, and I'm really happy because I'm a big Trevor Lawrence fan. So what'd you think, sir?
I'm going to tell this story quickly. I have a friend who used to like football, wasn't a huge fan. He got back into it this season, and he likes Trevor Lawrence as well. And so during the game, I'm watching it, like we're in Discord, we're watching the game. And he's just hurt. He's like, who had home field advantage? And we have decent wide receivers, 1 through 3, and I can't believe this is happening. He was just distraught, right?
Oh, is this the guy that was like, okay, yeah, go ahead.
So I keep telling him, like, look, it's a 20-point game. It's halftime. I'm not saying that the Jags are coming back. But if there was ever a team,
there's history.
There is history. I'm like, you have to understand there is a saying in football, it's insert bad team, it's bad team things. In this case, it's Charger things. That is a very Charger thing to let happen. And so as the second half rolls through and then he's going nuts, especially when Bosa gets kicked out of the game. Now, at that point, I'm on the phone with my sister because we had a little family issue. Nothing bad. Don't worry about that. But he's texting me and he's going nuts. And that's my second takeaway. Other than the fact that he's like, oh my God, he started looking up the history of the Chargers, I think, afterwards. But just very quickly, Bosa has a huge part to put on his shoulder for how he played. He didn't play well, and he got himself ejected. I know there's a controversy about the ref running up on him. You know how I feel about refs. I think the coddled and not held accountable. The ref shouldn't have done that. However, the ref's not a all-pro caliber pass rusher. And you let your team down. And quite frankly, if I'm the Chargers, I'm not saying you get rid of Bosa because he's a stud, but like he's not a leader. Like he has to grow up as a man.
Yeah, he's not like his brother, that's for sure.
No, he's not like he's a shitty Bosa for a reason.
Yeah, this is a great confidence boost for Jaguars, obviously, and Trevor Lawrence and them, but go figure your rewards going to Kansas City, and I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. Which we'll get to that game because obviously Patrick Mahomes and company are playing pretty good football right now. Got the home field game. I would love to see Jacksonville go in there and win, but I don't see it personally. In fact, some people don't think that Jaguars will get over 14 points. I don't
agree with that.
I thought initially with the Jaguars and Chargers it'd be a lower scoring game than it was, but it turned out to be a higher scoring. But of course, turnovers will do that. But I honestly think that this game, unless something crazy happens, we've seen it with Kansas City against Indianapolis and stuff. Unless something crazy happens, I think the Chiefs roll in this game.
Yeah, they.
I'm going to say like 30-14 or some shit like that, or 17.
I think the Jags are going to hit 20 points. I'm pretty confident in that. The Chiefs are a very cocky, arrogant team. They've taken teams too lightly. They also are prone to silly mistakes and they turn the ball over. They are oftentimes their own president. The Jags have good offensive pieces. The issue that the Jags really have, it's not even defensively because we've seen teams just get blown up offensively by the Chiefs and then still win the game because the Chiefs' offense has faltered or the Chiefs' defense has also faltered. I think where their issue is can they really trust who Trevor Lawrence isn't a rookie, and I hate calling a sophomore player a rookie, but were to ever give that title to somebody, it would be because Urban Meyer was their pro football coach. So he's like a baby sophomore. He's on the road, one of the worst places to play. He doesn't have a real number one wideout. He has a good running back, but not an elite one. His offensive line, I think, is solid, but it's not great. He doesn't have anything that he can bank on. And against a team like the Chiefs, I think he really needs something like that. And I will tell you this: um, Patrick Mahomes would not have won that game. If he was, and I love Justin Herbert, but they call him Showtime and the Grim Reaper for a reason. And it's just, I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be pretty. Okay, Giants are going to Philadelphia now. This past week, you and I called it. We thought the Vikings might lose that game at home against the Giants, and sure enough, came to fruition. I was the one thing I was worried about was the Giants running the ball well, which they did. Between the backs and Daniel Jones, they really just gave Minnesota fits all day. You and I were talking about earlier how you and I get into like battles on the Broncos board about people who don't like Kirk Cousins. I'm like, Kirk wasn't at fault for this game, really.
Kirk Cousins played better than Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. As a matter of fact, it's an interesting exercise. Find a quarterback who won and tell me who outplayed Kirk Cousins. And it's actually really hard because Josh Allen turned the ball 3 times over. Joe Burrow was quiet in the second half against Baltimore. Matter of fact, dare I say, he was bad against Baltimore in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to hold that game against Kirk Cousins because he didn't get it done ultimately, fine, that's fine. But don't sit here and change how you view other quarterbacks later. Because quite frankly, I feel like when Brock Purdy finally struggles and has a bad game in the postseason, there are going to be a lot of people who are like, "Oh, well, he was a rookie, he was a whatever." No. If it's just about wins and losses, then that's it. If there's no context aside, then don't.
You know what Jade is going to say.
Oh yeah. But Jaded's consistent though. He is. Shout out to beloved Jaded.
Yeah, the funny thing is, one of the biggest gripes, of course, that people made about that game was that the fourth down, where Kirk threw like 4th and 3, but it was like 4th and 7 or something. Yeah. Sometimes you need players to make plays other than a quarterback. But going back to what you said about Burrow and Allen, luckily Cincinnati got lucky with the fumble that Huntley had at the goal line, because without that, I don't think they win that game. And then Allen, he's really great player, great quarterback. But they're fortunate. They only beat Dolphins by 3 points.
Yeah, they're
I mean, it was like a third string guy. So
now that fumble that he gave up for that touchdown was completely on him. He didn't recognize, people when people want to protect the quarterbacks that they love, they'll scream bad offensive line. He made that mistake because a pass rusher got there. Peyton Manning and Tom Brady made a living of looking at the defensive field and then going, "This is what they're going to do. This is what's going to happen." So when the pass rusher comes through unabated and then rocks your shit and then you fumble and they score, it's your fault. And people will be very, very careful, especially Russ Wilson fans, as to when that's going to apply and when it's not. And at the end of the day, Josh Allen played horrible and the Bills should have lost. And Tua was there. And the Bills
it should be noted also that unlike the Giants-Vikings game, the Bills and Bengals were up 17-0 in their games before they let up the teams come back. So
they choked. And that's the other thing too with Kirk Cousins. He didn't choke. I mean, if anything, they had a touchdown pass taken away, and what did he do? He ran the ball in like the next play or the play after that early on in the game. Maybe we could have a conversation about how good Daniel Jones actually is, and I think he's actually, I'll eat my words on it. I think Daniel Jones is a legitimately decent, solid starting quarterback. If I'm going off of just this year and playoff performances thus far, he slides into that 10 to 14-ish range. And, I will give Daniel Jones all the credit in the world for that. However, he got to run the ball against a really bad rush defense, and to pivot toward this game, them against Philly, we've been talking all year long about how the one kind of hole in their armor is rush defense. Now they had Jordan Davis, they drafted him. When he got hurt, they got Ndamukong Suh and another run stuffer. It got better, but it is still very possible that the Giants do well running the ball, and that's their ticket. That and trying to win the turnover battle, that's their ticket to winning this game. I don't think they're going to do it, but it's a live game.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, it's a division game, which we saw a couple with the Bengals and Bills. They had division games as well. If anything hurts the Eagles, it might be the bye. Sometimes that hurts teams, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But I still think the Eagles have a little bit too much both good offense and defense, so I'm not sure that the Giants are going to be able to succeed. It just depends.
Yeah,
if the Giants can keep it close, then they'll have a chance. But if the Eagles get up by 2 or 3 scores, I don't think so.
It's going to be rough. The other thing that the Eagles, the rust might be worth it. Let's say that they're rusty, just because it's given that extra week gave Hurts more time to get healthy. So I think it's still going to be worth it. The Eagles just need to come out. I don't think they need to jump to a huge lead. They just need to do what they do. Even if they're just kicking field goals and consistently scoring with that defense and the way that they attack on offense and the way that they control the clock, they're a handful. So I do think that the Eagles will win comfortably, but it might be a better game than people think.
Yeah. So what do you think the score is going to be?
I'm going to say 27 points for the Eagles, 17 for the Giants, because I don't think that Saquon is going to be able to bust off like a 50-yard touchdown. I think the Eagles will sell out. I do think that they have the athletes on defense to at least contain Daniel Jones running the ball somewhere.
Yeah, I think you're pretty close to where I think it's going to be like a 27-20 game in favor of the Eagles. It can go either way. Like I said, if the Giants can keep it close, there might be a chance. But the Eagles are probably the best team outside of KC this year. I think, we were doing our rankings throughout the year. The Bills kind of lower and lower because of issues with turnovers and defense. Of course, injuries play a factor in some of that, but they're not quite as strong as we thought they were early in the year. They have some glaring holes. So
they don't have a consistent second wideout, and their best running back is Cook.
Yeah,
only recently been able to play. Their defense has blown big leads. They have crumbled in the past. They put so much pressure on Josh Allen, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but their cap situation is not exactly the best.
right.
So, they're in an interesting spot.
That's because they're all in. So it's like
they gave Vaughn that cash over. I wish he was able to play for him.
All right, so we talked about Cincinnati. They're coming to Buffalo. Obviously, the Bengals escaped the Ravens. Always a tough game. That fumble, of course, we talked about. And the Bills escaped the Dolphins, which really I'm not, and I know how people are. If I say Skylar Thompson had a great game, it doesn't mean I'm thinking he's the best thing ever or that I want him as my starter. I'm just saying he came to play. And they started out rough, but they got it, they made it competitive, which is what you want. So what are your thoughts on the past games as well as what you think is going to happen against the Bills?
So if I'm looking at Cincinnati versus Baltimore, this is what I think, unfortunately. I think the Bengals did not respect Baltimore. I think they rolled in there thinking they were going to kill them. I think they rolled in there and they're expecting them to just kind of flop over and die. And Baltimore, you have to understand this. You know this because you live there, and I know this because my team plays in the AFC North. When your roster is as strong as Baltimore's, and when your coach is as good as Harbaugh, and we need to get rid of this Harbaugh can't coach anymore bullshit. If that guy got fired today, he would have whatever job he wanted.
I would be the one up first. Go to Denver.
Oh yeah, that'd be amazing. He's a Hall of Famer, so let's just get rid of this.
I mean, dude, he got a team that was like in shambles because Lamar's hurt and he was down to a third string quarterback, and even though they were in the playoffs already, it's like they still, or fighting for either they're
They
going to get the
gave
home
it.
field or not. So
They gave it to Cincinnati, and if the coin flip situation happened, if that game was in Baltimore, they probably would have won.
oh yeah,
So this is what I will say for Cincinnati. Um, I think they're going to beat the Bills. I think that they're going to beat the Bills by 2 scores.
Woof.
Um, yeah, no, this is, and I don't like saying this. It actually makes me sad. But they are, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But when I look at the teams on paper, they're a horrible matchup for, for the Bills. The Bengals have a bad offensive line now. Williams, he's got a dislocated knee, so even if he can play, he's not going to be as good as he was. Quite frankly, he's one of the worst starting left tackles in football already. Lyle Collins is out. I know they have another injury on the interior line. Here's the problem: that line that they have right now is probably still a little bit better than the one they had last season. Joe Burrow, I'm not saying that this is sustainable football, but he will take whatever damage you can dish out to him to complete a pass, to complete a bomb. And without Von Miller, the Buffalo pass rush is just pretty good. It's just pretty good. Not taking anything away from it. It's stout, but it's not. It doesn't feel inevitable. Buffalo doesn't have the corners to cover Jamar Chase, Higgins, and Boyd. And I think that the guy who actually might have a huge game for them might actually be Boyd. Um, he was heating up a little bit against Baltimore. I thought they should have gone back there. The other issue that the Bills have in this game comes from defense. Josh Allen's going to do Josh Allen things. I understand that. He's a bad man. He's a bad man. But the Bengals secondary is they don't drop a lot of picks. And Josh Allen is prone to throw at least one head scratcher a game. And quite frankly, the Bengals defensive coordinator, he's a pretty aggressive guy. So I expect that the Bengals will turn them over a couple of times. I think the other thing is that Cincinnati knows that offensive line aside, they're the better team. They feel that they have the better quarterback. They feel that they have the better weapons, and it's an offensive league. And I just don't see a world in which the Bengals lose a game where they should be able to complete just about any pass that they need to at any point in time. Now, can the Bills win? They absolutely can. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to them. I'd actually really, really want them to win, but they have good corners. They don't have great corners. They have a good pass rush. They don't have a great pass rush. And on offense, I don't know if they're going to be able to. I don't think they're going to be able to get much to Diggs. I think Cincinnati is going to just double him, and they have burners in their secondary that can run with Gabriel Davis if he even shows up. So I will take the Bengals, 38 to 24.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said there. The only outlier I think really in this game, when you're playing the Dolphins with a third string quarterback, you can get away with having like 4 or 5 turnovers. You can't do that against Cincinnati. They will make you pay for every single one of them. So if the Bills come out and start turning the ball over like they have, and they've been pretty bad about it the last few weeks of the season and going to the postseason now. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm going to say 33-27 Bengals. I just think Allen's just that good to try to get them back in it, but I think they are going to turn the ball over, and I think it's going to cost them.
Mahomes is the best quarterback, but he's not leaps and bounds better than either of those two guys. I will also say this in the Bears' defense as well. I think that they, because I kind of give the Bengals a bit of a pass, I think that they looked at a downtrodden Dolphins team with a third stringer and took them lightly as well. However, this is last thing I will add. Bradley Chubb beat the shit out of Josh Allen all day. So that offensive line that the Bills have is good, but you can get to Allen. You can get to him.
Yeah. So last game that's on the docket, Cowboys versus Niners going to San Francisco. Cowboys overcame past demons by beating the Bucks pretty handily.
On the road.
Best game that they had all year, I think, really.
Yeah.
But you and I kind of figured, we thought maybe Tampa might win because of Brady, but we also understood that Brady, this isn't the same Brady from like 5 years ago. So
I was on the board on record saying Tampa by 7, so I was not even fucking close to.
Well, I
at
mean,
all.
the Cowboys had the
They,
reputation and history of the Chargers, so like they would like last year they lost to the Niners at home. So
yeah, I mean, I remember saying that like if Mike McCarthy wasn't the Cowboys coach, I feel so much more comfortable picking him.
right,
Now it's funny. Now Jerry can't fire him, so
right,
there's a
you're
bit of irony
stuck with
there.
them now.
You're stuck with him. This is what I will say for the Cowboys. That was an amazing performance. Dak was marvelous. The running backs did their thing. The offensive line was amazing. Their offensive line has been so much better than what a lot of people thought it was going to be this year. I thought they killed it with Tyler Smith, who I don't know if it might be a reach to say that he played at a Pro Bowl level this year, but he wasn't off by much. He was definitely a good tackle, especially a rookie, especially playing in a division filled with pass rushers. I want to take the Cowboys so badly. I do, because they have a quarterback that I think is good. They have a wide receiver who I think is really good. They have a wonderful defense. But I just look at who they're playing, and I can't justify picking the Cowboys here because they're on the road. Christian McCaffrey is healthy, and when he's healthy, he's a monster. He's arguably the best back in football when he's healthy, and he has a pretty damn good argument for it. Kittle was healthy; he's an elite tight end when he's healthy. Debo Samuel's is a. I don't know if I'd have him in my top 10 wideouts. Granted, there's a crap ton. It feels like there's more great wide receivers than ever before, but he's pretty close. Brandon Ayuk is probably one of the most underrated players in football. I feel like he's a number one, and I feel like on a lot of teams he can put up big numbers. The Niners offensive line is insane, man, and that defense is pretty fucking filthy. And while I'm not a Brock Purdy believer, while I think the bubble's going to pop, I am a Kyle Shanahan believer. I feel the same way about Kyle Shanahan, defending him from a lot of his playoff performance criticisms, the way I did for a long time with Andy Reid, because that was Andy Reid's big criticism was he wasn't a playoff coach. I think
Mhm.
it's more complex than that. So I am going to pick. I'm going to pick the Niners to win 20. Actually, I'm going to go with 20 to 13. Um, I was not super impressed with what the Niners did against Seattle. I will simply say that Geno Smith had a wonderful season. The ride I felt was pretty obvious was going to come to an end there. I'm kind of all over the place with my analysis here, just because I don't see a predictable path to victory for the Cowboys. But if they won and they made the NFC Championship game, not only would those ratings be insane, we will be invaded by Cowboy Nation. They will be all over the place.
Cowboy
But
fans will be insufferable.
but they suffered for a long time, so I'd be okay with it. Although
Yeah,
Eagles are still better.
certainly. Look, not many people know I grew up when I first got into football in the late '70s. I was a Dallas fan. That was the first team I latched onto. I liked the helmets, the star.
Yeah,
They were
classic,
big then. You had Tony Dorsett, Danny White, Tom Landry.
absolutely.
And then, of course, about 81 or 82, I got my family was Bronco fans, so I became a Bronco fan out of that. A year later, they got Elway, and that forever sold the deal for me in terms of my fandom. Uh, even when the Cowboys won in '90, they were like my second team that I adopted back during that time. I really liked them. They were
Absolutely.
dominant. But then, of course, over the years, they just haven't been as good. And, even I had to come back around to Tony Romo, who I really love as a commentator. I think he's the best out there right now. Um, the Niners, their weakest point is Purdy because he's just young and green.
Yeah.
But you stated it exactly on point. If we're talking about who is the mastermind, it's Shanahan. And what he's done with all his different quarterbacks is pretty amazing. And McCarthy, I don't have the belief system in him to have the type of game plan or to be able to adjust when things aren't going their way. Like I think McCarthy will fold if the Niners, let's say they get out to a 20-6 lead or something, and Dak's not playing his best, or the team is struggling a little bit. They have to go to the pass only instead of running because I think they need to run in order to beat the Niners. So I just if they can't harass Purdy and force him into mistakes, they're going to lose. And I'm not going to keep it as close as you. I think they're actually going to win pretty handily. I think it's going to be like a 30-17 win for the Niners. I just don't know if Dallas is going to have enough.
So we're disagreeing on how well the Dallas defense is going to do.
Yeah,
I think so. That's fair. I will say this,
and I think part of that for me is because throughout the course of the year they have their moments, but we've seen them get big leads, and then they lost it to Tampa earlier in the year, and then they lost it to the Green Bay, I think. So they just have moments where they're just not their best, and a part of me this last game said to myself, this Tampa team's not that strong offensively, so Dallas should technically win. And I think you were looking at it from the same perspective, but we always think that Brady's the best playoff guy ever. He's not going to let it happen. But obviously that game showed that he's pretty much done. I think either that or he doesn't have the talent that he needs. He has great receivers. They just have no running.
He is at the age now where he can't slide around like he used to and avoid pass. So he can still stand and deliver. He just can't get hit the way that he used to, and he has to have. It's kind of like how you have a baby and a super old person. They both aren't very good at walking, and they're in diapers. And it's hard, and talking's not their strong suit. It's the same way with quarterbacks. It's kind of at the same spot where a young quarterback basically needs everything around them in order to succeed. That's where he's at. I think he's going to be a Raider. I think the reason why I have it 20-10, maybe 20-13, is because I do think that the Cowboys' offense is going to be able. I think they're gonna have the type of game where they leave going. We were so close. We were so close to being in field goal position. We were so close to converting on 3rd and 4th down. We were so close. I think that's going to eat up a decent amount of clock. However, and I will say this: if they give up 2 early scores, they don't against that defense. That's going to be hard. Because CD, I don't know who they have. Because I refuse to believe CD Lamb is going to have a big day, and I refuse to believe that the Cowboys are going to have one of those. We ran the ball for 220 yards, dominated them. So I don't know what their path to victory is.
Yeah. All right, sir. Well, thank you for joining me for this quickie. And the only thing I got to say before we head out of here is I want you to sing it with me. Oh, Canada. Oh Canada.
The worst news. Here's the silver lining, continuity or whatever bullshit. Mad America, not that Canada.
You told me that. I was like, oh boy, he's going to be really happy about that.
I hate it.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much again. I will see you next time when we do a full length. Oh, actually, we'll be back next week because we got more picks. So another episode of Slim Pickens will be coming your way.
Later, everyone.
All right, folks. Thank you very much. Keep it metal. Love your sports. And have a great weekend.
You see me before you die.